Hello, this is Lady Boulay, and welcome back to Black American Lineage. And thank you for going on this journey through our past and our present. And today we're talking about the Supreme Court's ruling where they just gutted the Voting Rights Bill. Now, the 15th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States gave Black men the right to vote. Women couldn't vote in 1870 when the 15th Amendment was ratified. So women gained the right to vote in 1920 under the 19th Amendment, but Black women couldn't vote in the South because of the Jim Crow laws. President Lyndon Johnson passed the Voting Rights Bill in 1965. He was pressured by Black activism, and really he was driven by his own ambition to reshape America. Let us remember that our constitutional right is to vote, but America has always tried to either not let us vote or take away our voting power, and that is what the Supreme Court did a few days ago. It gutted the Voting Rights Act in that it tried to take away our voting power. It is our constitutional right to vote, but they are always trying to find ways to make our vote not count. I want to make this point. These are the first Black members of the United States Congress. Slavery ended in 1865. By 1871, we had 7 Black members of the United States Congress. And they are a handsome group too. We have Hiram R. Revels of Mississippi, Benjamin S. Turner of Alabama, Robert Carlos DeLarge of South Carolina, Josiah T. Walls of Florida, Jefferson F. Long of Georgia, Joseph H. Rainey of South Carolina, and Robert B. Elliott of South Carolina. So we have 7 Southern politicians, 7 Southern congressmen, 3 from South Carolina. So South Carolina was well represented. Now, this is a part of our history that some of you probably know, and for those who don't know it, Black representatives were forced out of Congress during the late 1800s, and by 1901, every Black member of Congress had been removed through violence, intimidation, and Jim Crow laws. That year, 1901, is the moment historians mark as the end of Black representation from the Reconstruction era. But the last person who left the Congress told them, "We will be back." Now, the reason there were Black representatives is because from 1865 until 1877, federal troops were in the South protecting Black citizens. But during the Compromise of 1877, when there was a tie in the Electoral College between the Democrats and the Republicans of who was going to be the president, the Democratic candidate, Samuel Tilden, gave up his right, because he won the popular vote, but there was a 269 tie in the Electoral College. So the Democrats gave up the right for Samuel Tilden to be president of the United States in favor of the Republican candidate, Rutherford B. Hayes. But there was a compromise. Hayes had to agree to remove the federal troops from the South, to remove all of the Black officials from office, and to really instate Jim Crow, which was the second slavery in the United States. So that's why the Black representation was taken. But it was through violence, it was through intimidation, it was through force. Black people had constitutional rights, but they had maneuvered the political process to the point that we did not have equal protection under the law or due process, which were our rights under the 14th Amendment. From 1901 to 1929, 28 years, there were zero Black members of the United States Congress. This was not because Black Americans stopped voting. It was because they were prevented from voting through state laws and racial terror. And that terror came in the form of the Ku Klux Klan and any other terror group that wanted to come up and scare Black people. Because remember, Black people did not have due process or equal protection under the law. The law was not protecting Black people in the 1920s. The removal of Black representatives in 1901 wasn't an accident. It was the result of voter suppression, redistricting, legal barriers, and political violence. It's the historical blueprint for how political power can be taken without ever changing the Constitution. And that's what they're doing now. You understand? They're trying to take the political power from Black people again, and that's what the Supreme Court did a few days ago, even with two Black people on the court. They still are trying to rob us of the political powers, and this was what they did. The Supreme Court's 6-3 decision in Louisiana versus Callais did not eliminate anyone's right to cast a ballot. What it did was gut the protections that ensured Black voters' ballots had equal political weight, especially in places where racial discrimination in voting had been historically persistent. Here's the core impact. Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, the main tool used to challenge discriminatory maps, has been dramatically weakened. Justice Kagan said the majority had rendered it a dead letter. The court struck down a majority Black district, saying the map used too much race, even though race was used to remedy discrimination. So, in other words, you can have too many whites in a district, but you can't have too many Blacks. That's what it came down to. The ruling makes it far harder for Black communities to prove vote dilution, even when maps clearly reduce their ability to elect candidates of their choice. Experts expect widespread redistricting across the South by 2028 that could reduce Black representation in Congress and state legislatures. My home state of Alabama went right on after the Supreme Court ruling and redrew the state's map, trying to eliminate one of the two Black districts in Alabama. Governor Kay Ivey wanted the old map where we have one representative from the Selma district. But some of the Alabama Republicans want to eliminate both of the Black districts so that the Black people of Alabama have no representation. Now, they try these tricks ever so many years, and they go on for so many years. Now, the Congress can overrule all of this and reinstate the whole thing. So just understand that. But we have to have a Democratic Congress in order to do that. Let's recap what the Supreme Court did. Black Americans still have the right to vote. The constitutional right is untouched, but the power of that vote can be weakened. I'm going to explain how gerrymandering works in my next video on this channel. I just want to leave you with these images. On the screen is the first image. These are the Black members of the United States Congress in 1871. This is the image of the United States Congress in 1906 after all of the Black members had been run out of Congress. This is an all-white Congress in 1906. This is Oscar DePriest. He was the first Black congressman to be elected to the United States Congress after Reconstruction. Remember, the Great Migration had taken place by then, And a lot of black Southerners had moved to Chicago. They pulled their voting power together, and he returned back to the Congress. And this is what the black representation looks like today. A lot of black people are not satisfied with them. A lot of black people have problems with them, but they're there. This is the Congressional Black Caucus. There are 62 of them. Those who do not want us to have political power will continue to pull their little tricks. But we have to be thinking too. We are Americans too, and we have to operate like Americans. So we continue to vote, and we continue to make our voices heard, and we continue to move forward to perfect the union. Thank you for listening, and have a great day.